Welcome to the 5-day course of this online foundation course. The first day will be discussing about the file system, why a file system is required for the machines to understand the operating system level. Then we'll go with the introduction of operating system with Windows and Linux, the basic kind of commands that are used. If anyone of you are new to Linux, then how to actually go through the commands and what kind of file system architecture we have with respect to Linux. Also, we see some of the basic commands that are used in day-to-day use. Then we'll see the hardening part of both the operating systems, because once we understand the operating system, the main purpose to actually have the security is to harden in the sense we already have some default settings or the kind of default configuration. So how to make those settings with respect to the kind of security tweaking so that it can be used. So with this introduction, we'll start with the basic introduction to the file system, then how the OS have been developed, and then we'll discuss some of the basics with respect to both Windows and the Linux operating system. Thank you. Okay. Before starting with the introduction of Windows or Linux, first we'll go through the file system management, because every operating system, whenever we talk about the operating system, that has to be stored on the particular hardware or the kind of storage from where we need to access those particular files or the data that is stored on the storage devices. So for this, we'll have the concept of file system management. First, we'll have a quick introduction about this file system management. Whenever we talk about the file system management, generally it is the way in which the files are named and where they are placed logically for storage and retrieval. Now, let's say I want to save some data. Let's say it is my information of my name, or with respect to any data or a photograph or a video, whatever may be the data that has to be stored on the storage. So before this, we assume that we already have an basic knowledge about the hardware, about the kind of computer hardware we have. So whatever the data that is stored on the hard disk, or it may be internal hard disk, or it may be external hard disk, or it may be the storage in the network. So to actually retrieve or to store the kind of data, we need a kind of file system, because whatever the kind of storage we do on these kind of storage devices, they will be treated as the files. Then there should be some mechanism to actually identify the kind of files we stored and how we actually retrieve to again get the information from those files. So this is where the file system will be helpful. And again, we generally use the kind of conventions where it may be in terms of name, or it may be in terms of the kind of suffixes we use to actually denote. Now, let's say if you are storing the kind of document, then it will be a particular name along with extension doc or docx, or it may be ODP, or based on the kind of extension, it will also denote the kind of application that is binded to that file. So this is how the file system basically will be used. And it includes a format also to specify the path to a file through a structure of directories. So let's say whenever we talk about the file will be the basic unit on which the data is stored. Again, there will be a group of files where we make a common group for that. It may be noted as directories. Now, this file system will be a format where it will specify the kind of path, how to actually store and retrieve those files or directories in the storage. So this is how the file system will be used. And again, we have a different kind of file systems according to the different vendors or the technologies, how the file system is implemented to store and retrieve. This is again basically varies with respect to the operating systems we use. Now, if we talk about Windows, we have a different set of file systems like the DOS, the disk operating system. We have FAT, we have file allocation table, we have NTFS, new technology file system. Again, with respect to Unix and Unix based operating system, all the distributions of Unix like Red Hat, Fedora, we have Ubuntu, and a lot of other distributions also. So with respect to that, we have a file system like ext2, ext3, ext4, and with respect to again Mac, we have a different set of file systems. So this again varies with respect to different type of operating systems. So all these have file systems in which the files are placed somewhere on the storage, but they may be in a hierarchical or in a kind of format which can be like a hierarchical or a tree kind of structure which can be retrieved or stored easily. So whenever we talk about a file, it is generally usually placed in a directory, or we generally call it as a folder in terms of Windows, or it may be a subdirectory, again a subfolder at the desired place in the tree structure. So when we talk about this file system, but this file system has to be stored on the physical hardware or the physical storage. So this is a logical division within a physical partition. Now we talk about the hardware or the storage. Again, the file system will have a different set of partitions. So whenever we talk about partitions, now let's say treat a hard disk as an open LAN. So whenever we want to have a structure in the open LAN, we need to have a kind of first the partitions with respect to kind of layout we need to design. Then we need to segregate that in terms of rooms or the kind of things. Then we need to make put some kind of items into the partitions or the kind of space we actually make. So similarly, file system will actually also have the same kind of thing on the storage, where we first define in terms of the partitions or the kind of storage we want. Let's say we have a 1 terabyte of storage, then accordingly we make partitions according to the storage we want, on which we'll install the operating system, and on the operating system it have the control of the different partitions that are located on the storage, and accordingly we'll place the files, we'll create the directories, we'll delete the directories, or we'll update. So all these kind of things will be taken care by the file. Now again, whenever we talk about the file system, again we have two kinds of file systems. We have disk-based file system and we have flash file systems. So whenever we talk about the disk file system, it is designed for the storage of files on a data storage device, like most commonly a kind of disk drive which we use, which might be directly or indirectly connected to the computer, right? So it may be through the network, or it may be through the direct connection. So we use these kind of disk file systems. So whenever we talk about the disk file systems, the examples include the FAT or the file allocation table. We have FAT12, FAT16, FAT32, and we have EXFAT. So EXFAT is one type of file system where this is most commonly used between Windows as well as Mac operating systems. And also we have NTFS specific to Windows. And also we have ext2, we have ext3, ext4. These are for the Linux operating systems. We have a lot of other operating systems or the file systems as it is. When we talk about the kind of flash file systems, then we have these are specifically designed for storing files on the flash memory devices, like the kind of we use on the smartphones, or recently we are also using the kind of flash memories on the operating systems on the normal desktops also. So these are more prevalent as the number of mobile devices are increasing and the capacity of flash memory also increasing. So while a disk system can be used on a flash device, so we can use a lot of other kind of mechanisms. Also, the kind of same file systems can also be used on the flash device also, but we have a kind of speedy storage and kind of retrieval with respect to the flash file systems. Now the other type of file systems we have as tape file systems. We have database file systems, and also we have transactional file systems. So whenever we talk about the tape file systems, these are specifically designed for storing the files on tape. So whenever we talk about a large kind of storage for archival in terms of data centers, or in terms of large storage, we generally prefer this tape file system. So generally, these are the kind of magnetic where the sequential storage media will be there to actually store and retrieve. So for this, we use the tape file systems. And other thing we generally use for the database kind of file systems, along with the normal kind of operating systems like Windows and Linux, where we generally store the data, but we need kind of a specific kind of database file systems where we have a lot of data along with the metadata also. So for this, we have the concepts of data-based file systems, where the files are identified with respect to a lot of other parameters like the file name, or with respect to the kind of topic we can choose, or with respect to the kind of author, I mean the owner who has created it, or the similar kind of metadata. With respect to that, we have this database file systems. And whenever we talk about the transactional file systems, so again, each disk operation will be involved with respect to the changes in different files and disk structures. So in many cases, these changes are related. And again, that means they are stored and executed at the same time. Like this will be with respect to the financial kind of things, where the bank is sending the money electronically, and it will again transfer the instruction to the other bank, and also update its own record. So all these kind of operations will be done simultaneously. So for this specific kind of things, there is a need for the transactional file systems, where it introduces the guarantee that along with the kind of storage and archival and retrieval, so the transactions can also be finished completely. So this is where the transactional file systems will be useful. And other kind of file systems we have are with respect to the network and shared disk file systems, and we have special purpose file systems also. Like if we talk about the network file systems, we may be accessing a storage through the network. That is where it is not directly attached to the system physically, but we have this storage located at a different part on the network. So for this, we use different protocols or the network clients. Like we have a network file system, we have Samba, and we have we'll be using FTP protocols. So these are some of the file kind of file network file systems on which we'll be using these file systems. And the other thing is the shared disk file systems. So where we'll be using the shared disk file systems, usually the servers, where we like the storage access network, where we place certain storage onto the network, and this will be accessed through a kind of file system. Like we have GFS from Red Hat, we have some GPFS file system from IBM. So there are different kind of shared disk file systems also. And other kind of file systems we have are with respect to special purpose file systems, where there is a kind of need not with respect to the disk file system or the network file systems. These are arranged dynamically by the software, where with respect to the kind of temporary file storage, or with respect to the computer processes, where we need a kind of special purpose file systems. Now, let's say if we talk about in terms of Linux, we have this a folder called proc, or the processes file system. So with respect to the kind of processes running on the operating system, where which grants access to information about the specific processes. So these kind of processes will need a separate file system to access this kind of thing. So for this, specifically, we'll go for the kind of special purpose file